thanks also everyone for coming tonight, despite the warning of a storm. I don't think it's stormed yet, but I think we'll try and create a storm inside through some hard-hitting questions for Charlie tonight. Charlie, thanks for your time tonight as well. It's probably taken me over a year to get you here tonight, so I know you're very busy and you travel a lot, and your EA lane is a really good gatekeeper for you, so I'm going to have to buy her a gift card just for letting her book us in with you tonight. But I won't bother with an introduction because I think everyone here knows Charlie pretty well, so I'm not going to waste time with an intro. I'm going to get straight into the questions. I'm feeling the pressure a little bit because Charlie came early and I asked, can we run through some questions? He said, no thanks. And then just a few minutes ago, he was talking about the best interview he's ever had with Andrew Denton, who did not have any notes at all. And so I'm going to try this. I've got notes, but I'm not going to refer to them. So we'll see how we go, okay? So, oh, and sorry, the other thing, halfway through is actually going to be your opportunity to ask some questions. We're going to do some things through modern technology. So instead of giving you the mic, you get to text through Slido some questions, and I'll get to choose some questions on the screen, about halfway through. So I think if you've got some questions, think about them, you can start using Slido. So let's get straight into things. I might warm up firstly, Charlie, with some quick questions for you. Introvert or extrovert?
Oh, extrovert.
Extrovert? You can use the microphone.
I have to use it?
Probably better, yeah, it might be better. Are you usually early or late?
Early.
Early, yes. You were here early, actually. Favourite website?
It's pornographic, I'm sorry.
Okay. I'm glad there's no kids here tonight. And I know you like to come to Chinatown often. Favourite restaurant in Chinatown?
Golden Century.
Golden Century, that's a classic. You can't go wrong there. Okay, I want to start off maybe just looking back at your childhood. So often our upbringing is a reflection of maybe how we turn out later. So I just want to understand a little bit more about your parents initially. So Philip and Elizabeth, very English names, and they had two kids, Charlie and Anne, so they like the royal family. How would you describe your childhood growing up?
I guess it was dysfunctional in that it wasn't one of those feel-good type family things where you go on holidays with your parents and have good long discussions with your father and he'd give you guidance about life. So he was very much a hands-off father. He was a bad man. He was having lots of affairs on my mum. So I didn't really have much of a relationship with him, except he used to beat me up occasionally. And then my mum, of course, was the subservient wife. He used to cook 3 hot meals for him every day and do everything she could for him. But and in the background, of course, she was sort of almost apologising for his behaviour to me by being just the best mum in the world. And but it all became so dysfunctional that they sent me off to boarding school when I was 9. Mm-hmm. And it was a boarding school that I guess I saw some stability and some direction and mentorship. So that became, I guess, my normal childhood, going to boarding school. Mm. And anything to do with home was very, very dysfunctional.
Yeah, okay. So boarding school at Scots College at 9. There weren't too many Asians at Scots College at that time. No. Did you feel like you were different?
Oh, absolutely. Very different. I was made to feel different, and in those days there were only 2 of us at Scots, and there was a few Jews as well, maybe 2 or 3 Jews, and we were all persecuted, like terribly, jeered at, mocked continuously, beaten up. You know, it was terrible.
Yeah, okay. So if your father wasn't a role model for you growing up, did you have other role models or other people in your life that you could look up to and get examples from?
Oh, absolutely. I can still name them. You know, there was a guy called Ewan Cameron. He was from Dungog in New South Wales. He was one of the dorm prefects, and he was a lovely boy. I mean, you think of him as a man when you're 12. And yeah, he was kind and caring, and I sort of used him as a role model. And then I chose movie stars because John Wayne was a role model, Bruce Lee was a role model, and because there was no one else. I mean, I couldn't use my father, and most of the kids at Scott's were sort of bullies and didn't really have much to do with me, and so yeah, no, I had to sort of use my imagination to pick a role model, I guess.
So when you talk about Bruce Lee, you eventually took up karate and you got pretty far in karate. You got a black belt before you were 18. What was the purpose or the reason behind doing something like that? What did you want to, was it around self-defense or was it around something else?
Of course I'd like to say it was all about the philosophy and no, but it was all about beating people up. I mean, you're a young kid, you've got testosterone, you're being mocked and jeered all the time, you want to be able to defend yourself, and I wasn't the biggest kid in the school. I wasn't small, but I was sort of mediocre, I guess. And no, I wanted to be able to beat the crap out of all those guys that took the piss out of me, So, yeah. I soon learnt the philosophy of karate and kung fu, and I understood that it's all about self-confidence, and you don't have to beat people up. You can talk your way out of a fight and stuff like that. But no, to be honest with you, when you're 16, you're not thinking about the philosophy of karate. You're thinking about, being a real man, protecting yourself, and holding your own in a fight.
Okay, so how would you describe yourself in high school at Scott's? What were you good at?
I guess I was a bit angry, I was one of those angry little kids that, I wasn't a bully, but, if I ever saw someone picking on someone smaller than them, I'd beat the crap out of the bully. And so I guess in some ways I was a bully because, but I believed in justice and fairness, and I felt like I had to be the protector of fairness, and so I was a prefect and one of the a vice captain of my house, Aspinall House, and I took it upon myself to sort of be the purveyor of justice at the school. I was very nerdy. I wasn't good at sport. I was good at karate, and that was about it. So, I played in the fourths in rugby, and I was in the social for rowing, so I wasn't the best sportsman in the world, but I was good at debating. I was good at karate, and I had these leadership skills that some of the teachers identified and put me in sort of leadership roles. Okay,
and what about academically? What were you like?
No, I wasn't even that good, I mean, my father, being the arsehole he was, basically mandated that unless I stayed in the top 5 in every year, he could take me out of Scott's. So I was forced to study hard and work hard if I wanted to stay in that school. I would much rather have been in the dojo practicing karate than in the classroom, but I knew that I had to do well or else I was going to be kicked out of the school. But it didn't come to me naturally. I know smart people, and I'm certainly not one of them. I just worked hard to stay to stay in that top 5.
Okay. I think one of the other things you learnt at Scott's was how to play the bagpipes, and sometimes you're seen in photos or videos playing the bagpipes wearing a kilt. I know you're not Scottish, so what was the reason behind learning something like that?
It was all my father. My father was an Anglophile, and those Asians in the room, I'm sure some of your ancestors and parents were more English than the English. And they called their children Johnson, and they called their children, those very, very English names. And so my father was one of them, more English than the English. He married an Elizabeth and called me Charles, my sister Anne. We had corgi dogs. He had an affair with my mother and remarried another Elizabeth and had an Andrew and an Edward, and very, very English. So, and anyway, part of being English, he wanted me to row in the first 8. I was never big enough, so I couldn't do that, but I did rowing. And he wanted me to be in the Scotch College Pipe Band, and so I joined the band on his pushing. And I ended up loving it, so I'm not saying I have any regrets there at all, but yeah, that was the impetus to join the band, him.
Yeah, okay. So I went to a boarding school as well from year 7 to year 12, and there are a lot of structures within that boarding school. There's a lot of rules. You don't come across these days as someone that conforms to rules. What were you like at Scott's at the time? Were you a bit of a rebel back then, or did you follow the rules pretty well?
I guess I was a little bit of a rebel. I mean, yeah, I had a motorbike. I wasn't allowed to have one. I hid it from the authorities. You know, not. You morph into something different as you mature, or as you grow older. I'm not saying I'm mature, but as you grow older, you morph into different things. And when you're at that age, you want to be part of the boys' club. You know, you don't want to be different. You don't want to stand out in the crowd. As you get older, of course, it's good to stand out in the crowd, and you want to be an individual. But then, no, you just want to be like everyone else. So I didn't want to be an obvious rebel. I mean, up here I was rebellious, but you know, I tried to be like everyone else. Tried to, you know, stay under the radar.
Okay. Fast forward a little bit. So you finished year 12, and then you got accepted into medicine at University of New South Wales. You weren't convinced, though, that medicine was your career? You had a few other options in mind?
Yeah, look, again, I love medicine now, and I don't know if I've grown into medicine or I was always destined to be a doctor, but, you know, I can't think of any other vocation as good as medicine now. But before I did medicine, no, again, it was all, I don't know whether it was testosterone driven or not, but I wanted to be a head of a security firm. I wanted to use my karate skills. I'd been bouncing all through university, and I just like beating people up that that aren't good people. And I don't know, I was just a bit angry or something. But yeah, I wanted to. Then I wanted to. What else did I want to do? I wanted to be a politician. I wanted to be the leader of Australia. And I didn't know how to be, but I knew that I wanted to make the rules. So, and then I wanted to be a whole heap of things, a lawyer. Just wanted to be a whole heap of things except for medicine. And again, I had not that my mum's really a tiger mum, but she encouraged me not to do law. She encouraged me not to be a politician, and she certainly encouraged me to do medicine. So I guess she sort of ushered me in that direction.
Sure.
Maybe she knew. Maybe she knew that I had it in me, that I was going to be a good doctor. I had the traits of being a good doctor.
What do you think are the traits of a good doctor?
Oh, it's all about caring. It's all about putting others first. And that's the worst thing about medicine these days. Most doctors don't. They're in it for the wrong reason. They forget the basic premise of medicine. And medicine is basically being selfless and putting your patients number one first. And yeah, that's all I've done. I've received all this celebrity status for being this, you know, inspirational doctor, but I swear I do nothing more than I think what a doctor should do. I care for my patients, I put them first, I give them more patient autonomy, I listen, I respect their wishes, and I treat them like I would like to be treated myself. It's all I've done. And I think all doctors should do that, and most doctors don't.
Yeah. So what do you think it is? What do you think the reason is why so many doctors dislike you?
I guess maybe I'm a mirror, and they look at me and think, shit, maybe I have to reevaluate my practice or reevaluate the way I treat my patients. I guess it's the status that I've received. It's that tall poppy thing, you know. I mean, I've read some. If you Google Charlie Teo, half of it is negative, and so I don't do it anymore. But when I have done it, I realise what they hate about me. And it's all petty little things, like some neurosurgeon in Melbourne wrote, oh, I saw Charlie Teo's photo on something. He's always got to be in the media, doesn't he? And another one, you know, all about giving people false hope and charging too much money, and it's all bullshit, petty stuff. And so, I don't know what it is. But you're right, I mean, I'm hated by my colleagues. There are very few doctors who actually respect me or like me. Most of them hate me with a vengeance. And I've spent the last 20 years basically keeping my head above water, trying to survive that. I've virtually got a full-time lawyer on retainer to fight my battles for me, write the letters, do all that sort of stuff. It's just every week the fraternity have been trying to destroy this, find some other way of trying to destroy me. It's terrible.
Yeah. Playing devil's advocate, I mean, have you thought of a different approach to dealing with the medical establishment?
Yeah, look, there was a really nice guy called Les White. I can mention his name now because he's retired, I think. But the bottom line is he was the CEO of Children's Hospital. He was a really good guy, had my back. And he came to me and said, Charlie, you're just so unpopular. Everyone hates you, this and that. It's because you lack diplomacy. And you just don't know how to play the game. I would teach you how to play the game. And he would sit in and listen to me in a meeting where someone would get up and go, oh, I don't think that tumour should be taken out. And I'd go, I think it should be. And he'd go, yeah, the way you did that, all it is confrontational. What you've got to do is go, yes, you're right. Absolutely, you shouldn't take that out because, the following reasons. But what do you think about this? And maybe there is a small chance, just be very diplomatic about it. And so he'd try and coach me how to be diplomatic. And so the next time I tried doing it, and then I couldn't do it anymore. I think it's like selling your soul almost. It's being duplicitous. It's being, I call it sucking dick. And I hate to say it, but that's what it is. You've got to learn how to suck dick, but not only do you have to learn how to do it, you've got to learn to pretend you're enjoying it. And I just can't do it. I just cannot do it. I realise the importance of sucking dick. I realise that it's part of life. I realise it's part of not only the politics of medicine, but the politics of everything, of life itself. It's all about, compromise, being a little bit duplicitous, maybe not telling the whole truth. All those sort of ways we talk about sucking dick, but really it's just sucking dick.
Well,
there's no other way of thinking about it or describing it.
All right, I don't know where to go.
I'm terrible at it. I can't do it. I tried and I can't do it.
That's good to know. So let's take a step back again. So you met Genevieve around the age of 25. You say it was love at first sight, and you decided to go to the US, and you were there for 9 or 10 years, so quite a long time.
Yeah. Working
pretty hard, like over 100-hour weeks. Just really into it, and you were building a really good reputation over there through your skills that you sort of learnt in Australia, which were probably more advanced than the US. Is that fair to say?
There was one particular skill taught to me by a guy called Bob Jones, who is a retired neurosurgeon from Sydney Children's Hospital. He taught me how to use the endoscope in neurosurgery, and it was never used in neurosurgery. Our ENT colleagues put them up the nose, our GI colleagues put it down the throat, colorectal put up the bottom. So the endoscopes were being put into all sort of different cavities, but never into the brain. And Bob was one of the pioneers of endoscopy in neurosurgery and taught it to me. It hadn't caught on in the States, so when I went over to the States, I became the neuroendoscopy expert in the States, and hence I got a green card because of my status and bringing something new to the States.
Okay, and so you had a lot of opportunities in the States, but when it was time to come back to Australia after 9 or 10 years and look for work, it was difficult.
Yeah, very difficult. Again, it's that whole tall poppy thing. I climbed the ladder in the States. I'd had international reputation. I'd just been offered a full professorship at UCSD. So I had a really high profile, and again, the Australian neurosurgical fraternity found that a little bit threatening, obviously. And that's all about that BTA degree. Being to America, you come back and they think, oh, you think you've been to America, you think you're better than us, so we're going to cut you down to size. And I knew it was going to happen. I mean, I didn't want to come back to Australia for professional reasons. I wanted to come back because Genevieve wanted to come back. I love Australia. I missed it. When you're a foreigner in a different country, you know that you're never going to be one of them. You're never going to be accepted as one of them. And I wanted to come back to a country where hopefully I could be accepted as an Australian. And so it was a vocational decision to come back to Australia. It had nothing to do with medicine.
Okay. So, and as a result of not being able to find other work, you decided to set up your own practice.
Oh yeah, that's really bad. But it's all truthful, so I can tell you, even if you're filming it. So every job I was interviewed for, they withdrew the position because I was the applicant. It was crazy. So I went to Royal Children's Hospital in Melbourne. They advertised for a paediatric neurosurgeon. I was the only applicant, so they withdrew the position. Same thing at Westmead Children's Hospital. My mentor retired. He said, Charlie, you should apply for my job. I'll put a good word in for you. And I applied for the job at Westmead Children's Hospital. No other applicants, so they withdrew it. Prince of Wales Children's Hospital, 2 applicants, they gave it to the other person. And even though she was a registrar at the time, she wasn't even a fully qualified neurosurgeon, and I was a professor of paediatric neurosurgery, they didn't give the job to me. So I knew that there was no chance I was ever going to be accepted here, so I started my own sort of centre.
And I think even to this day, you've had no referrals from the Children's Hospital?
Not a single referral.
After how many years?
And again, that can go on the record. So I've been a HMO, VMO, staff specialist, all those appointments at the Sydney Children's Hospital since 1999. You know, I'm lauded as this great paediatric neurosurgeon taking out brain tumours that no one else touches. I get referrals from all around the world. I go to Singapore in a few days' time to take out this difficult brain tumour. I go to America just to do difficult brain tumours. So I get referrals from all around the world for paediatric brain tumours. Never once have I ever had a case referred to me from Sydney Children's Hospital. Never once. I've had kids who have chosen to come to see me from Children's Hospital, but they're only because they've been, as soon as the doctors over there hear that they're coming to me, they will do everything in their power to stop them from seeing me. Yeah. So. And I've said it on TV before, but no one listens. Everyone thinks that I'm just an idiot, or, you know, I'm sort of paranoid. You know, if the public only knew the number of children that are sent to their death that I could save, it's every day, I promise you. I can take out all these tumours and they will just refuse. They'd rather see the children die than come to me. And I've said it on public TV, I've said it everywhere, and everyone goes, oh, there's Charlie Teo again, sort of sprouting off about how fantastic he is.
Yeah. Well, this is going to be on YouTube, so you're going to get the biggest audience you've ever had, I think.
It won't translate into anything. The fraternity is too powerful.
Have you thought about setting up your own fraternity? You know, getting a group of doctors and trying to...
They've been set up. Health Excellence Group, the Health Reform Group, the the Health Practitioners. You know, there's so many people who have been bullied and treated badly by the fraternity. Good doctors. I know them. They're good doctors, good caring doctors who do good work, and they've tried to figure out how to fight the system. They can't, so then they said, let's set up our own group. They're too powerful. The College of Surgeons is a monopoly. The APRA, the registration board, is just totally dysfunctional. You know, the situation is that the powerful people are not only the plaintiffs, they're the judge, jury and executioner. So some doctor who is well established, he's part of the fraternity, he goes, gee, I don't like that Charlie Teo and he's taking away patients from me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a complaint that Charlie Teo has all these complications. And so he makes the complaint. The hospital goes, oh, okay, well in that case we better take away his privileges until it's sorted out. How are we going to sort it out? I think we should speak to the head of the medical advisory board. Who might that be? Oh, it's actually me. Well, that's not okay. So I'll give an opinion, and they go and send someone like Charlie Teo goes, oh, hang on, the same person's giving the same opinion. He's just all he's doing is supporting himself. Maybe we should ask an outsider. Okay, let's ask the College of Surgeons to nominate someone. Oh, he's the College of Surgeons representative. So then he puts on another hat. I promise you, this is going on every day, and the public are completely unaware of it.
Yeah, lots of
and the public are the ones who suffer.
But despite, I guess, all these barriers, I mean, you're still as busy as ever. You're doing surgeries around the world. Your appointments here are flat out as well.
Yeah, but it is a constant battle. I mean, yeah, sure, I've survived, but I can name all the people who haven't survived, and that's a sad thing. So yeah, I've survived because I don't know how I've survived, but look, I was going to say it's because I've taken the high road, but so did some of my colleagues who haven't survived the system. So it's not that. I guess I strategised well, and that's part of it. I guess I'm a bit of a pugilist. You know, the whole karate thing has really put me in good stead because I love a fight. And you know, the guy I'm thinking of especially is a guy called Emil Popovic. He was a neurosurgeon from Perth who was the loveliest man in the world, great neurosurgeon, good teacher, family man, the most integrity that you'll ever find in a doctor. Anyway, he was bullied by the system. These guys who had a monopoly on the system didn't like the fact that he was getting such good results, and his patients loved him so much, so they had to destroy him. So they destroyed him, and eventually, after trying to get privileges at this hospital, but then they were powerful at that hospital, so he went to another hospital. They stopped him at every corner. They stopped him, and eventually he committed suicide. And so why hasn't that happened to me? Because I like to fight. Because Emil used to call me up all the time and say, this is what's happening. I go, Emil, go public. Go public. And he goes, no, I think what I should do is I'll talk to this person and they'll listen to me, and eventually, you know, everything will be fine. Oh my God, for 7 years he tried to do the right thing, you know, go through the process, and you know, he paid the price for it. Whereas me, when they come gunning for me, I go, you bring it on. You know, if you want to fight, I'll fight you. And I think, you know, so that sort of has worked. It's kept me, you know, in control.
Okay. So you've mentioned you like a fight. It comes down to the type of operations as well. I mean, you like difficult operations. You seem to pick the inoperable cases, the more difficult ones, the ones that others won't touch. Why?
Yeah, see, that's another misconception. Oftentimes I see patients that have been somewhere else and they've had bad surgery and they've had bad results, and I go, why didn't you come and see me? Oh, we thought you only did the difficult cases. But no, I'd love some easy cases. I'd love the virgin cases, you know, instead of the redos and the ones that have been sort of just, you know. Anyway, look, again, it's all about what I would want if I was a patient.
Yep.
So if someone said to me, you've got a brain tumour that is inoperable, unfortunately there's nothing that can be done, no chemo, no radio is going to work, and you're going to die. It may take a year, but you're going to die. And then you go see this other person, and this other person goes, you know, so if that was me, and some surgeon felt that there was a small chance he could help me, I'd like him to tell me that. Just tell me the truth. Oh, you know, look, I'm sorry, I agree with the other doctor, it's pretty bad news. I guess I could try and take it out for you, but there's a 90% chance you're going to be left maimed. There's about a 10% chance I could help you, and I'm prepared to do it. Now, that's what I want a doctor to say to me, so then it's up to me to make the decision. So, yeah, I do all these difficult tumours, but it's not by choice, it's the fact that, you know, they've gone elsewhere and they sort of just come to me.
Yeah, okay. And so, I mean, some of these operations, you know, they'll go for over 20 hours. They're pretty difficult, very complicated. You need a lot of stamina to do those kind of operations because you're standing there for a long time. I know you don't drink or smoke. You know, you keep pretty fit. Is that all part of trying to be the best surgeon that you can be?
That's exactly it. I mean, I'm pretty vain, so I like to look good. I wouldn't like to look fat or unfit. So that, I guess that's a small part of it. No, but a major part of it is that I think it's your responsibility to be the best surgeon you can be. I mean, you don't want to go to a surgeon who is unfit, is so unfit that he's in pain when he's operating, so he can't concentrate. He's trying to hurry things along because he just can't stand for more than 6 hours. And, you know, sort of big night the night before, or has been drinking the night before or something. I wouldn't want my surgeon to be like that. I'd want my surgeon to be in peak physical fitness, totally focused on my case, willing to stay there and do the hard yakka, even if it takes, you know, 20 hours. That's what I would want. So if that's what I want, I want to be that person for my patients.
Okay. The other criticism you've had in the past is you get too close to your patients. So, and I think the approach you said you take is you want to treat them like you would a member of your family. And I know there's cases where you will take them kayaking with you, you get to know them. At the same time, when you don't have successful operations, how do you deal with, I guess, the emotional side?
Yeah, again, so I'll take you back a few steps. When I was doing my exams, my final neurosurgical exams, I failed them. And I thought I was pretty good, and I'd been practicing and studying with all the other registrars, and it seemed like I could answer all the questions they could answer, so I wondered why I failed. Anyway, I thought I must have just poor performance in the day, so I sat again, failed again, and everyone was passing, and younger people coming up, less experienced than me, were passing, and I was failing. Did it a third time, failed again. I thought, fuck, what's going on? And so I got my mentor to sit me down. I said, I won't mention his name because people know who it was. I go, what am I doing wrong? How come I'm failing? Anyway, he took his glasses off, put them in his mouth, like this, sat down and go, Charlie, I've been wanting you to ask me that because it's very clear what you're doing wrong. He goes, firstly, you've got to stop riding your motorbike. Neurosurgeons do not ride motorbikes. Get yourself a car, be, like everyone else. Okay, and you've got to stop, this whole sort of thing about night clubbing and going out all the time. And so I used to go clubbing all the time, and there was a club called Jamison's on Jamison Street, and I used to go there all the time, and get back at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, and find a girl, settle down. Yeah, okay. And he goes, and the other thing is, you've got to stop calling people by their first name. And you've got to stop letting people call you by your first name. And, doctors just don't do that. And I didn't understand what he was going on about at the time. But now, since a few other people have said this sort of same thing to me in the same sort of spirit, I understand it. So here's the spirit. So let's just presume all these people are saying it in my best interests. And I think they are. And it goes something like this, when you do get close to your patients, it takes a huge emotional toll on you when things go bad. And, things are going to occasionally go bad. You're going to get a bad result from surgery. Patients are going to die from their disease. And you've only got a certain amount of emotional energy in you. And after a while, that's going to wear you out, and you just won't be able to practice anymore. If you maintain a certain aloofness, a barrier between you and your patients, it protects you in many, many ways, emotionally. And that gives you longer longevity, professional longevity. So I think they were telling me in my best interests that, Charlie, keep aloof, keep away, don't get too involved with your patients, because if you do, it's going to wear you down early, and you won't be able to, you won't be able to survive the game. So, but I, of course, being me, I ignored their advice. And I do understand what they're saying, because I do cry and I do sort of get very involved when patients don't do well, and I take it very personally. But conversely, when patients do well and the results are great, I mean, that's very rewarding as well. It sort of rejuvenates you and adds to your emotional strength. So, I think they counterbalance each other.
Okay. Let me touch on your own family. So you've got 4 daughters. So you've grown up in a household with 5 other girls. And I think I've read somewhere that you said after all these years you still don't understand women. What do you mean by that?
Oh, I'd like any man in this room to put his hand up if he actually can speak their language. So no, I don't understand women. I'm still not good at it. At one stage, I've had 4 daughters, and at one stage I had 4 teenage menstruating daughters in my home and a menopausal wife. So, so I've been through hell and back, and you'd think that I would have learnt lessons and learnt how to communicate better and stuff like that. I don't. I don't understand the women. I mean, I love women, and we can't live without them, and but no, I don't understand them.
So, having a demanding career professionally, you needed a lot of hours to perfect your craft. Often there's a trade-off, whether it's a trade-off with less time with your family, less time for hobbies and other things. How have you achieved the balance that you wanted, or do you feel you have achieved it?
I would have said to you maybe 5 years ago that I was proud that I achieved the balance, but no, I don't think I have. I mean, my family life has suffered. My wife's not happy with me at the moment, and I can understand that. And she's been a great wife. I've been a terrible husband. Look, I don't know what it is. I have seen things going wrong in my non-vocational life, and I could have addressed them. For example, I could spend more time with my wife and my family and reduce the time I spend at work. But my fear is that I would resent my family and my wife if I did that, because work just means so much to me. I just love it so much. When I'm on vacation, I want to get back to work. And, I don't even like, I don't like holidays because, again, it's all time away from something that I absolutely love. So I think that if I'd made more compromise and sort of spent more time doing other things, maybe I wouldn't have been as happy as I am. I spoke to the Dalai Lama about it. I was lucky enough to meet the Dalai Lama, and we spent 4 hours together over a lunch. And when you meet the head of a religion, they give you this long list of things you can't do. And one thing you can't do when you meet the Dalai Lama is ask questions. So for the first half hour, I just listened to him, and I just sat there, didn't ask any questions. And I thought, gee, I'd love to ask him a question. So I said, the guy next to me was a Lama, one of the head Lamas from America. And I said to him, I'd love to ask the Dalai Lama a question. And he goes, oh, no, go right ahead. That doesn't apply to you. This is a very private sort of setting. And so I asked him that question, this philosophy of life. I have this internal battle, constant battle about spending more time with my family, who I love, or more time with my work, and I love that. And I'm always battling this, and how do I resolve that? And he was very clear. He goes, I've been asked that many times. Here's the answer. He goes, what is it in life that most people want to achieve from the minute they're born? And I was quickly thinking, is it some deep philosophical question? So I go, to make the world a better place? And he goes, no. And he goes, to make a difference? I go, to make a difference in the world? He goes, no. To be successful? No. I go, I don't know. He goes, it's happiness. So from the minute we're born, we strive to be happy. He goes, are you happy at home? And I go, absolutely. Are you happy at work? I go, yeah. He goes, no. Where's the conflict? Whether you spend 90% of time at work and 10% at home, or vice versa, you've achieved what most people are yearning to achieve from the minute they're born: happiness, total happiness. He said if you didn't spend time at work and spent more time with the family, you'd be unhappy. You'd be an unhappy partner. You'd be an unhappy person. The whole thing would be unhappy. So, just be happy with that sort of, don't have that conflict.
Sure. I guess the argument to that is are your loved ones happy though as a result? And
no, I don't think they are, but I am. No, I didn't mean that. Especially if they're watching. No, look, and that's why it still is a conflict with me. I promise you, it still is. I still feel like I should be spending more time doing other things and not being so selfish. I think I am selfish. I've actually described myself as being a selfish sort of person. It's all about me wanting happiness for myself, happiness for me, and the way to achieve that is, what I'm doing now, and that is spending a lot of time at work and just and wanting to spread the word about neuroendoscopy and minimally invasive keyhole surgery and lecturing and operating all around the world and sort of trying to make a difference in the neurosurgical world at least.
Mm. So what would you want on your epitaph? What would you want it to say?
I've been asked that question before, so I know the answer, and still the same answer. I'd just like to be known as a good bloke.
Yep.
And not necessarily as a great neurosurgeon or a great father or a great husband or, you know, a great person, but just as a good bloke, you know, someone you could trust, someone who's honest, someone who cares for others more than themselves. Having said that, of course, I just told you that I care about my own happiness. Yeah, so I think maybe I'm not going to have that written on me, but he wasn't a good bloke, he was very selfish. But yeah, I'd like to be known as a good bloke, you know, sort of a good fella.
Yeah, okay.
But doesn't take himself too seriously, you know, it's a good friend, loyal friend. Look, I'm not quite sure, but yeah, my good friend has just died and his funeral's on Tuesday, and I wrote a little letter to his daughter and I said, you know, you're going to hear a lot of superlatives about your father over the next few days at the service and stuff, but I just want you to know that the way I describe him, he was a good bloke. And he really was. He was just a decent sort of guy, trustworthy. Yeah.
Right.
I'd like to be remembered like that.
Yeah, fantastic. I've gotten a little engrossed in these questions, and I've forgotten that we are using Slido for some audience questions, so we might start putting some of those up. I will also ask you in the meantime, there's an event, so you've got, and I do want to ask you about your charity, or your charities, because there's some interesting stories about the two charities that you've had. But this weekend you have an interesting event, the Sydney Skinny. Is that correct? Tell us about that.
Well, I was introduced to the Sydney Skinny by a guy called Nigel Marsh, who actually introduced it to Australia. Great guy, inspirational sort of guy, motivational speaker. And so I went along really not knowing much about it. It's a nude swim in Sydney Harbour to raise money for charities. And the charity he identified the first year was National Parks and Wildlife, and then the next year it was Cure Brain Cancer, my old charity. This year it's the Charlie Teo Foundation. So he picks really good causes. And why have I become so enamoured with it, and why have I supported it? Well, it's a fun day. Now, there are very few events that you can go to where everyone is smiling. And I promise you, when you go to this event, there is not one angry person, there's not one person on a pedestal, there's not one person who thinks they're any better than anyone else, because you're all naked. And it's very hard to be pompous when you're naked.
Sorry, you're swimming?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, swimming and... You swim. Well, you don't have to be naked. It's not about nudity and it's not about swimming. It's about getting out of your comfort zone as a great equaliser. And it's good to get out of your comfort zone. It makes you feel alive. And in terms of brain cancer, well, poor old people who are diagnosed with cancer, they're out of their comfort zone from the minute they're diagnosed. And so if we can get out of our comfort zone for 20 minutes to raise money for those poor bastards who are diagnosed with cancer, then, you know, so be it. And that's what it's all about. You get out of your comfort zone, but it's all about fun. Yeah, you can swim if you want to, and you can stand around showing off your wares if you want to, but most people don't. Most people just jump into the water, don't look at anyone else. I swim with my staff. I've managed to convince my staff to come over the last couple of years, and I still can't tell you what they look like, because you'd feel like a real pervert if you're going there. So you don't. You just keep your eyes on the water. You don't look at anyone else. No one's looking at you. You run in the water. You swim, and then when if you're really modest, when you come out of the water, they've got these people standing there with sarongs, so you can pick up a sarong, get out of the water, and never be seen, you know, no one can see you. Of course, I don't do that because I like showing off a little bit. So I sort of get out and sort of shake it around a bit. And sort of, but no, if you're very modest, you can actually not be seen at all.
Okay, I've got some of my staff here tonight, so I'm sure they're thinking, Brad, don't answer this.
I think you should do it. Really,
is anyone doing it? Anyone want to do it now?
I think you should do it. It is a great event. It really is. See? There you go. There you go.
I checked, registrations are closed.
They have not. No, registrations are open. And yeah, you can bring your whole family. All my daughters do it with me. Their boyfriends come along, all my staff. It's a really great event. And you know, you go to a rock concert, there's always some angry dickhead, bogan, sort of, you know, who's angry and pushing people over. You go to any event, there's always someone angry, or some person who makes it unpleasant. You go to this event, I promise you, everyone's smiling and happy and a little bit uncomfortable.
All right, let's move on. It's one of the slider questions. Famous, what was it? What cases stand out in particular? So, I mean, you've done some high-profile people, Jane McGrath, Stan Zamani, Chris O'Brien. Did any of them really stand out?
It's going to sound a bit cliche, but no. And it's because all patients teach me something. They teach me something about life, the fragility of life, the value of life, and they teach me a lot about courage. You know, these people are incredibly courageous. They put their life in my hands. I mean, you know, when you operate on someone's bowel or their foot, you know, so what if they get it wrong? You just lose your foot, or you lose your bowel or something. You know, operating on someone's brain, you can lose your very person, your personality, your memory, your vision. You can die. It's just it's a huge ask for someone to put their life in your hands. And so I really respect all my patients who allow me to operate on them, and they really teach me courage, the real true meaning of courage. So no particular one stands out.
Yeah, okay. There's a question from one of my staff, and she wanted me to ask this one. What's the possibilities of brain nodules leading to brain cancer?
Okay, so the bottom line is we don't know what causes brain cancer. So I can't really be definitive in my answer. But we do know that some things are probably have got something to do with it. If you look at all cancers, we used to think it was this whole thing about mutations and stuff. And we now believe there is a cancer theory about stem cells. In other words, that you're born with cancer stem cells. They just sit dormant, and then one day they sort of raise their ugly head. So there's obviously something that triggers it, some catalyst. And you know, smoking may be the catalyst for is the catalyst for lung cancer, and you know, viruses are the catalyst for other types of cancers. And we haven't identified the catalyst for brain cancer yet, but so the big thing is electromagnetic radiation. Could that have something to do with it? And there were some very good studies, you know, decades ago, showing that people who lived around high tensile electrical wires had a higher incidence of cancer. One study was out of Chicago, another study out of Scandinavia. They both said exactly the same thing. You had a higher incidence of leukemia, brain cancer, if you lived around those high tensile electrical wires, which emit very, very low frequency EMR. So then people used those studies and extrapolated that data to apply to the EMR that's emitted from mobile phones, which is quite low frequency, not quite as low frequency as that stuff. And so the big fear was that mobile phones cause brain cancer. Well, all I can say is that the jury's still out. It's still incredibly controversial, but I have been vindicated a little bit, because I was a lone voice at one stage, and my colleagues, of course, predictably came out and they mocked me for it. Oh, Charlie Teo's this, it's, you know, he's being an alarmist, he has no knowledge, he's not an expert, this and that, and they mocked me and they laughed about what I was saying. Thankfully, the International Association of Cancer Research, have come out and said they're the ones who grade carcinogens into different types of categories, and they have actually put mobile phones as category 2B, potentially carcinogenic. So, and that's not just one person, that's a whole group of scientists who've reviewed the literature and came out with the fact that there is enough evidence to say that we should be worried about them and that they are potentially cancer causing. So it's not just me. It's mobile phones, and then there's diet, nitrites and nitrates, and then there's all sorts of other things. Nodules, well, okay, what that person's referring to is that some people can sometimes have low-grade tumours, just sort of very, very slow-growing, or maybe no-growing, you know, nodules on their brain, or benign tumours. Can they turn cancerous? Yes, unfortunately they can. And so in other words, low-grade, relatively benign tumours can actually undergo malignant transformation and turn into high-grade tumours. Again, we don't know what triggers it, but they can.
Okay. And I read an article today about the Apple Earpods and the link also potentially to cancer, because you've got the Wi-Fi or the Bluetooth happening there. It wasn't a medical journal, it was news.com, but there's new technology and there's things like that I guess we don't know about.
Yeah, look, since the jury is out, I don't think there's any harm in trying to mitigate risk. I mean, we don't know, but why can't we just say, okay, there is a potential that the more I expose myself to EMR, the more chance I have of getting cancer. Why don't I just, until the jury is in, why don't I just try and reduce my exposure? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So, how do you do that? Well, you keep all those electrical equipment stuff away from your head. So when you use your phone, don't use an earphone, don't put it up to your ear, just hold it on out there on loudspeaker. Keep it away from your head. When you go to bed, turn off your electric blanket so you don't have electricity through your head. Put your mobile phone 1 arm's length away from your head. All of the electrical wires, just turn them off at the power point, don't turn them off at the at the end point. Don't sleep on the other side of those fuse boxes. The fuse boxes that sit outside your home, they emit huge amounts of EMR. And so just make sure your bed is not on the other side of the wall to that. And there's just a few very simple things. Obey the 5-second rule before you open your microwave. So many people don't do that, and yet if you read the fine print on microwaves, it tells you you've got to do that. And that's why they have that little beep, 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 the 5-second beep after the microwave finishes. You cannot open the door, or you'll get blown away by microwaves.
I thought the beep was just to tell you the food's ready.
No, absolutely not. So, some very, very simple things can mitigate your risk if it turns out that it causes brain cancer. Nothing wrong with that.
Okay, let's go to another question from the board. So your relationship with your dad, which you've identified was not good. I believe in your 40s you did reconcile with him before he passed away, but how did that affect you, your attitude, but also your own relationship with your own daughters?
Again, it's made me a little bit of a dysfunctional father, because I think I've gone exactly the opposite way. He was very mean and had no generosity about him, and my mum wasn't allowed to buy me birthday presents or Christmas presents, and he's just a mean sort of person. And so I don't ever want my children to think of me as being mean, so whatever they want they get. It's bad because it doesn't teach them life lessons and doesn't teach them the value of money and stuff like that. So I think I've failed a little bit in those terms, but so yeah, I guess I'm a little bit of a dysfunctional father, but at least I won't go to my grave and they'll say he's mean. I'll just say he's just too generous.
There's a question about mentoring young surgeons. Now, I remember seeing you at an event a couple of years ago. It was a Chamber of Commerce event, and you had these two very attractive young ladies with you, and then you told me they're both neurosurgeons. But that's something you spend your time on, and I don't know, do you pick and choose your neurosurgeons to teach?
Well, the male neurosurgeons have to have good-looking wives, and the female neurosurgeons have to be good-looking. No, not. I'm just joking. I promise you I'm joking. Okay, so it goes like this. I'm a frustrated teacher. I love teaching, I love mentoring, but unfortunately, in Australia, if anyone were to come and try and train with me or learn from me, they would be immediately blacklisted like me. So they would become part of Charlie Teo's fraternity or Charlie Teo's group, and they would unfortunately see the wrath of the majority of neurosurgeons, so they can't. So even though I'd love to teach Australian neurosurgeons and my door's wide open and we always invite them, come and watch some surgery, come and learn, none of them will. And there's a terrible neurosurgeon at this particular hospital, I won't even name it but he's so threatened by me that if any of the registrars say, oh, look, Charlie's doing this interesting case, I'm going up to watch it, he'll stop them from doing it. No. So I can't mentor. So what I do is I train overseas neurosurgeons. We have a fellowship program. It's incredibly popular. We have 600 applicants for one job. These are the creme de la creme of neurosurgeons from around the world. And yeah, so I get to teach them. I teach one fellow every 6 months, and there's observational fellows, in other words, neurosurgeons who just come and watch. They don't necessarily hands-on patients, but they just come and watch. And, you know, I just love it. I've taught, you know, all the neurosurgeons from the best universities in the world. You know, Johns Hopkins, I taught that guy, Harvard, Yale, Duke, Stanford, UCLA, all the greatest universities in the world have sent their neurosurgeons to train with me, and it's been very, very rewarding. I love it. I'd love to train the Australian neurosurgeons. Yeah.
Let's go to a question. The first one from Matt. It's about, despite all the obstacles and struggles, you know, what is your why? Or what is your motivation? What's driving you?
You know, I'd like to know. My father used to beat me up all the time, and my memories of my father was him hitting me and saying, "You're a coward, you're this, you're that." Because I remember I got beaten up once at school for being Chinese, and I came home and I had a bleeding nose, and he goes, "What happened?" I go, "Oh, I remember his name, but I won't mention it because he's still alive." But Richard so-and-so beat me up. He was calling me names, and then my father hit me. And he goes, "How dare you come back and not fight back?" And so he forced me to go back and beat up Richard so-and-so when I went back to school. So, I mean, I had it drummed in me right from when I was a kid that I used to, I always had to fight back and never say die and never give up and, you know, just persevere, persevere, persevere. And so I just wonder sometimes if I'm trying to prove myself. That's one thing. Another thing is maybe it's because I really am very caring and I like to do the right thing by my patients. Another thing is maybe I'm such an extrovert that I want to make a difference. I want to get a name for myself. It's all about ego. Look, I don't know what drives me, but I do know that I'm very, very driven. And, you know, I really hate failing. I like succeeding in everything and sort of being the best at everything. And so it might be personality. It might be a really sort of, you know, trying to do the right thing by patients. And, you know, I don't know. But whatever it is, yeah, I'm very driven.
So there are times when you fail, and there'll always be times when you fail. How do you deal with those emotions, you know, when you fail or when you feel hopeless? You know, what do you do?
Very good question, and it's a real lesson that I want to teach people, and that is if you've done the very best you can do, it helps you through those moments. So just imagine this. Say I operated on someone and they had a bad outcome and I was in a hurry, or I wasn't in my peak physical condition, or I was doing it for ego, or I was doing it for money. I don't know how those people live with themselves, because that would just wear you down. But if you can honestly say that, look, I had a bad outcome, but I really did the best I could. I treated that person the best way I could, as if they were my own child. I didn't do it for ego. I didn't do it to try and prove something. I didn't do it for money. I didn't do it for empire building. I did it purely in the patient's best interest. Then that helps you accept the bad outcomes. And believe me, I've had my fair share of bad outcomes, and probably more than most, because I do all these really difficult tumours and I get some really terrible outcomes. And I've got to really sit back at the end of the day and go, did I really do that because I thought it was in the patient's best interest, or did I do it to try and prove something? And yeah, so I think I survived because I always make sure that I make a surgical decision based on, if that was my child, would I still be offering surgery, and would I have done what I did? And if the answer is yes, then I can sit back and go, I did my best. And shit happens, you know, just shit happens. But if I did it for some other reason, that'd be, I don't think you wouldn't survive. I don't think you'd survive.
Yeah, okay. Do you still set goals for yourself? Are there things you still want to achieve in your career, in your life?
Yes, but I think, you know, I think maybe they're a little bit unreasonable. I would like to see the bullying in medicine disappear, but you know, it's so much part of medicine that even if you Google bullying in the Wikipedia, they come up with a subcategory of medical bullying. So it's been around for centuries. How am I going to stop it? And but you know, I'd like to go to my grave knowing that I've made some difference. That you know that people are made accountable for their actions. I think the Royal Commission into child molestation in the Catholic Church was very fruitful. I mean, it started conversations. It brought people to account. And I think a Royal Commission into the medical fraternity and how they bully their colleagues and how it's such a monopoly, I think that'd be a really good thing, because the public will benefit in the long run. They'll get better doctors, and doctors will know that they're accountable for their actions. At the moment, they're not.
How close do you think a Royal Commission is, though? I know there's been talk over the years with Nick Xenophon and others advocating for it, but how realistic or how likely do you think a Royal Commission into bullying in the medical system?
I think it'll eventually happen. I really do. As you know, we've had 2 Senate inquiries. So we had one Senate inquiry which showed that it was rampant. It was endemic in our system, and people were suffering. And that was led by Nick Xenophon, and it was so bad that they said, shit, we didn't realise this is bad, let's have another Senate inquiry. So they had 2 Senate inquiries, and they both come with the same thing. It's a terrible problem. And all we want now is a Royal Commission so that those people have to get up under oath and tell the truth, just like they did with the Catholic Church. That's what we want. And I think eventually we'll get it. It's going to happen eventually. It's just so bad a problem.
Just with doctors and being Asian, I know you're both, but in a way you're not your typical Asian. And so in a lot of Asian families, parents, you know, want their kids to become doctors. Coming back to the question of what makes a good doctor, though, isn't just being smart, and it isn't just being caring, because you need other skills. You know, if your daughters wanted to become doctors, what kind of skills would you be wanting to instill in them? What kind of attributes and things you think are necessary to be good, well-rounded doctors?
There's really only one attribute, and that is caring. It really is. Because look, just think of it like this. If you really do care for your patients, say you're a surgeon and you're a bit clumsy and you don't have manual dexterity, and every time you operate on someone they get a bad outcome. If you cared for your patients, you're going to stop doing it, or you're going to upskill, or you're going to find another vocation or another subspecialty. It's caring that counts. You know, if you're really smart and you come up with some new treatment and it doesn't work, and patients are being hurt by it, again, if you care for your patients, you're going to go back to the drawing board, or you're going to come up with some other treatment. So you've got to be a caring sort of person. And to all those Asian tiger mothers out there who are forcing their children into medicine, don't do it. I've seen it. I've seen what happens. These poor people, they become terrible doctors. They're not happy. They don't like it. Patients don't like them. They get bad results. It's just terrible. It's this cascade of disaster after disaster because they're being forced into medicine. And I teach all these medical students, and sometimes I ask them, why are you doing medicine? I'm telling you, more than 50% of them are at least honest and say, oh, we're doing it because we were told to do it. Our family want us to do it. We're doing it for the money, for the prestige, etc., etc. Maybe only 1 in 10 will say, I do it because I really love people and I want to help people. I reckon all doctors need to have that sort of caring nature. But how do you find that? I mean, how do you pick someone with a caring nature? It's very, very difficult.
It's a question about riding a bike, because you've been riding a bike from a pretty early age and you seem to really love your bikes. And we had a chat earlier, we met one of the startups that do these smart helmets, and you're asking all these different questions. It's probably a question around risk-taking, because in your operations, you'll take on the higher risk operations. In your own life, you seem to be doing things, riding a bike, you've done ocean swims, you've trekked up, mountains and run marathons and stuff like that. Again, what is the thing driving you to do all those kind of things?
So it's really fun. I don't see myself as a risk taker. I started riding motorbikes because I didn't have the money to buy a car. And I like the freedom of riding a bike, and I like the fact that I didn't have to wait in traffic and I could zip around and stuff. And so it wasn't me going, it's really risky and I'm a risk taker and it's adrenaline pumping. No, not at all. not at all. Climbing that mountain, that was just one of those things that was on the bucket list. I always liked the romance of climbing a mountain, where you get to the top and you'd be at the pinnacle of the mountain, you look down and you feel like that great sense of achievement of conquering the mountain. Again, I never really thought of the risk involved. And so, yeah, I don't, it seems like I'm a risk taker. It seems like I'm a bit of a cowboy, but, it was totally unintentional. And the basic premise of why I did all those things, like, the premise of doing difficult operations, taking risks, is because I'm doing it for the patient, because I think it should be done, not because I'm a risk taker, I don't think. And yeah, the motorbike's the same thing. Oh, obviously it is risky, but I don't really get an adrenaline rush out of it. I get, in fact, if anything, from motorbike riding, I get more solace. I actually like the fact that I can forget about everything else except trying to stay alive on the road.
Okay. Do you think you'll retire at some point, or are you someone, and so you're 61, if you don't mind me saying?
Yeah, but
you look a lot younger, and I'm sure you're...
I don't like thinking of myself as 61, but yeah, I am. I'm 62 this year, actually. So, look, if I've got time, I'll tell you a quick little story. There's a paper in the British Medical Journal looking at the retirement age of surgeons versus longevity, and it showed really clearly that if you retired as a surgeon, it wasn't just neurosurgeons, all surgeons. If you retired at 60, you live an average of 19 years. If you retire at 65, you live an average of 4 years. Yeah, it's dramatic. So the bottom line is that it's incredibly stressful. You don't realise it's stressful. Your body doesn't cope with the stress after the age of 60. And they look at all the confounders, and there were no other confounders. These were age-matched, everything matched two groups. The only variable was their retirement age. So it's very important to retire early if you want to live longer. So when I was in my 50s, I kept thinking, gee, I've got to retire at 60, but I don't know, I just can't do it. I just love my work so much, I'll accept that I'll die at 69, It's just the way it'll be, but I'll die happy.
Sure. And I guess there's I mean, you're much younger than, you're much fitter and healthier than many people your age as well, so I guess there's a factor there.
No, they actually looked at that as well. The fitness of these people, it didn't make any difference. The body cannot cope with the stress of surgery after the age of 60. It just doesn't have the ability.
Right.
Yeah.
I know you can get by without more than 6 hours sleep. Is that true?
No, it's like 3 or 4 hours.
3 or 4
really,
hours
it's
sleep.
like virtually no sleep. And even when I'm on vacation, my poor family have to put up with the fact that I get up and okay, let's go, let's do something.
Right. Well, I'm sure there's lots of studies around sleep deprivation and being able to really function with so little sleep. Yeah. What's your view on that?
It's bullshit. No, you're right. There are good studies saying they should get at least 6 to 8 hours sleep a night, I think, and the immune system likes it. You live longer, the heart likes it, a whole lot of things like that. But I would sleep if I could. I mean, on vacation, I'd try and sleep, but no, there's too much to do, and yeah, it's just my mind's going a million miles an hour all the time, and I just can't sleep. Can't do it.
What habit do you think you've developed that's enabled you to become as successful as you are?
It's dogged perseverance. It's sheer tenacity. And I experienced that when I was climbing mountains. So I did Chimborazo in Ecuador, the highest volcano in the world. It's 6,300 meters. And I can remember the last leg, it was terrible. You're oxygen deprived, you're starved of oxygen, you're buggered. You've got diarrhea because you've been eating local food. You've got no sleep because you've got such a pounding headache from the low oxygen. It's just terrible. All that romance stuff, there's no romance in mountain climbing. And I can remember thinking, gee, I've got to get to the top. And it's exactly that. It's one step at a time. You take one step, you puff and you pant. You wait 5 seconds, you take another step. And And that's exactly what life is to me. You know, when all these people are trying to knock me down and there's more fights and there's more hurdles, it's like one step at a time. You know, just keep going, don't give up, never give up. And that's, I don't know, again, I don't know if that's inherent in my genes or it's something that I've learned, but I certainly am aware now that it's all about tenacity. Yeah. And many of the tumours that I can take out are exactly that. So, you know, I'm not that much more skilled than anyone else, believe me. You know, I don't have more manual dexterity than anyone else. I'm certainly not cleverer than anyone else. I am not one of those geniuses, I promise you, but I have amazing tenacity. And I can, you know, there are times that I've been at it for 8 hours, my shoulders are hurting, I'm hungry, my bladder's full, and I just keep going and going. I just don't let it beat me. And so I think it's a good quality to have in a neurosurgeon. Just keep going.
Great. Well, on behalf of everyone here, we hope that you do keep going and going. We have run out of time. This has gone so quick. It's been a pleasure having you here with us. Again, thanks everyone for your questions and also coming out tonight. Please give Charlie a big round of applause.